How's it going, everybody? This is Mark Lozano again with Christ Center Capital, trying to crank out these YouTube videos and help C3 grow. Today, we're going to talk about the process C3 undergoes when we pick out what investments we're going to research, and then how we do that research, and just how we're even picking those investments to begin with, whether it be stocks or alternatives, cryptos, whatever it may be. So first things first, I'm gonna share my screen here real quick. Give me a second. All right. Now, all right, we're on the Christ Center Capital website. Please go check it out if you haven't already and you're watching this video. That's where all of our blog posts, articles, research, mock portfolios, stock opinions, recommendations, whatever you want to call them are. And it's also where our charity vote page is. Highly recommend people go and check out that charity vote page. I'm not signed in right now, so you can't see it, but usually the charity vote page, we have 2 charities every single month that are up there that you, our subscribers, get to decide between. Our paid subscribers get to decide of what charity gets the larger donation each month. C3 gives away 50% of all of our profits every single month. And this month we're deciding between, or you're voting between, Integrity Restored, and which is a great organization, somewhat local here to the Pennsylvania where C3 is based out of, but Integrity Restored helps people battle that pornography addiction and overcome kind of those struggles. And then we have our other one, Hope Refuge, and they're an amazing organization that rescues young people from sex trafficking. So please go check out both those organizations. When you check out the charity vote page and you vote on those charities, it creates traction for not only C3, but also those charities, because there's backlinks and everything, search engine optimization, SEO, for those who know what I'm talking about. It just creates more clout. That's good. It's a buzzword right there. It creates more clout for people, for those organizations to kind of get bumped up that algorithmic food chain. But anyway, got sidetracked a little bit. Back to how C3, what the C3 process is. So before I click on these other tabs here, we are in touch, the C3 analyst team here, which is not a very big team. It's me and a couple other people that are kind of sympathetic to the cause, that lend their support. What we do is we kind of have our finger to the pulse of the market. And what we're doing is we track literally hundreds of different analysts and what their recommendations are, and hundreds of different analysts, influencers, this type of thing. And what we're doing is we're always looking for like what group think is going on. So if we're tracking literally hundreds of different analysts and we have 30 to 40, maybe even 50 or more percent of those analysts kind of recommending or talking about the same investment, whether that be a stock or an ETF or a crypto or whatever else it may be, when we find out that some of these all these analysts have a majority consensus on something, we're like, okay, we need to take this investment, pull it, and we're going to put it into one of our weekly posts or monthly posts. And from there, we give, of course, a little bit of information on why analysts are thinking that this investment may have financial potential. But then we also start to talk about and add that extra layer of analysis as to whether or not this investment is aligned with those Christian morals, those Judeo-Christian moral convictions. So first things first step in the process, we're tracking a bunch of different analysts, way too many to mention. We have a huge like tracking doc and everything of all these different analysts and influencers and stock pickers, even YouTube influencers and stuff like that. And we take that and we're like, all right, these investments seem to have a big backing. And the reason we do that, and we take opinions from other people and not really giving our own opinions, we do our own research a little bit into these, but we don't really start with our own opinions because we're not a recommendation service. We're not a financial planner, a financial advisor. We are just trying to take out all of the buzzworthy, the noteworthy investments that are going on at any given time in the market. And then we're going to try and give extra analysis in regards to their ethics, for our subscribers. So that's the first thing, tracking all these analysts, all these influencers, and picking out the whatever majority consensus is giving us. So maybe that's 3 stocks, maybe that's 4 stocks in an ETF, maybe that's 3 cryptos and 5. It differs every single week, every single month, because there's so many things going on in the market, and there's just so many factors that are going to influence whether there's two assets that we're writing about, or maybe there's going to be 12 assets we're writing about. Once we have that group of assets and we kind of vet the financials too, like, all right, yeah, this makes sense that they might have financial potential, then we start our ethical screening process. Now, we do a lot of ethical screening ourselves, doing some deep digging. The funny thing about a lot of the ethical information is that it's all public. When a corporation, especially a publicly traded corporation, starts donating money, that's public information. It may be hard to find sometimes. It may take a little bit of skills to research. It may take some time. It's definitely going to take some time to research, but all that information is public. So what we do from there is we start to research that public information, compile it, and then we check it against other third parties that are interested in that moral research when it comes to investing. 3 great organizations that I'm going to suggest that all of you get a subscription to, or at least check out if you want to vet your own portfolios and everything, because there's 3 organizations that help Christ Center Capital do our back checking and our second and third quality checks when we're talking about these investments, when we're talking about the morality, the moral culpability behind each investment. The first one is an amazing organization, is the Biblically Responsible Investing Institute. So these guys have been around for a long time, and they have an amazing database. It's a little expensive to get access to that database, right? But they have an amazing database. I think it's going off the top of my head here, but I think it's about $1,000 per year to get access to their database. But they're going to go really in depth as to what companies are doing from a moral perspective. They're usually only focusing on the negative. They're not really talking about companies that are donating to like a pregnancy crisis center or sponsoring ministries. They're really just talking about companies that are funding abortion or associated with pornography or human trafficking. But their database is really comprehensive. I highly suggest you check it out. You can always get a free trial here. Request this. I believe they have a small team, but I believe a lady by the name of Olivia Hahn would be the contact person. She'll probably send you an email, give you your access for your free trial. You can go in there and check it out for like, I think a week is what your free trial is. And it's a really cool database. They've spent 20 years, I believe, compiling this, and then they literally update all, I think, 2,000 plus investments that they have on there year round. So this is one of our this is kind of the bread and butter of C3. Like we do our own research, we'll see what we come up with, and then we're going to go to the Biblically Responsible Investing Institute, check it out, and be like, all right, this is aligned with what we found, or maybe they found something we didn't find. So we rely on them, and they're a great organization. Highly suggest go checking them out if you're concerned about vetting your own portfolios. Then we have Inspire Investments, and they have this great tool called Inspire Insight. Now, a lot to say about Inspire Insight. Inspire Insight has compiled a lot of data. The great thing about Inspire Insight is it's free. You can go to Inspire Insight, type in a ticker symbol. Maybe you want to type in, we'll do, see here, the Meta platforms, still FB, hasn't changed yet. And they give scores. You see this -76 here. You see that -76 score right there. they're giving scores from a -100 to +100. -100, obviously the +100 means that it's really much in alignment with those Judeo-Christian values. -100 means not so much. Usually 0 or above is a positive score, means that they've kind of arbitrarily said that's okay for a Christian or person of faith to invest in. And they give some really cool information here as to, like, you'll be able to view links on whether they're supporting like LGBT philanthropy, legislation, exploitation of workers. There's categories for abortion support or drugs and alcohol, tobacco use, pornography. All that stuff will come up if their research has turned up those kind of things on a specific ticker symbol or company. So Inspire Insight, really cool. The problem I have with Inspire Insight is they don't give too much research or too much information on the morals of a specific business practice. What I mean by that, the very first thing that C3 goes through when we're talking about, all right, is this company aligned with Judeo-Christian values, is we look at their core business function. Is their core business function for the common good? And this is something that is not even on the radar of Inspire Insight, mostly because they can't really produce that kind of information on every single company. I mean, they're really good for what they're doing right now of kind of turning up this research. This is kind of like a red flag research, whereas they're really calling out the really, really egregious offenses to those Judeo-Christian values. And then also you can see here that try to clear this. Forgive me, I'm not the best at. But now you can see they have this environmental, social, and governance. That's how they're rating the positive of the company. So it's a kind of a secular way of rating the morality, right? They're not really rating companies based on Judeo-Christian principles. They're kind of rating companies on this newfound ESG, or these newfound ESG principles. And got to be honest, I mean, I can make a whole nother video about this, but it's not really something that me or my team at C3 agree with. There's usually a lot left out concerning morals and ethics when you're just looking at ESG, and a lot of it's just virtue signaling. I mean, you got companies, won't name any names right now, but you got companies out there that would be like, oh, we'll be carbon neutral by 2065, and they have a great, really fancy web page or something on their main corporate site, but they're not really. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a number they're throwing out, and if 2064 comes around and new technology hasn't been produced, they'll just up that to 2075. It's the ESG just really isn't something that C3 gets behind or relies on when we start rating companies based on morals, or when we start evaluating those companies. And plus, social and governance and environmental, the three things that make up ESG, it's really climate change, or climate hysteria, depending on what side of the fence you fall on there. And then it's talking about the social and the governance really has a lot to do with diversity and inclusion. And again, it's not something that C3 relies on when we're evaluating the moral good of a company. But still, Inspire Insight, Inspire Investments, great company, great organization, and the research they've produced is really second to none when you're just talking about quick access, So third organization we rely on to kind of double check our own research is Second Vote. Second Vote is more about the spending dollar. They're not really about an investing dollar, but a lot of the companies they rate and go on are, the research they turn up on those companies, even though they're thinking spending dollar, it helps out with us who are trying to vet companies based on our investment dollar. So really cool. They have two different tiers of subscriptions. The cheaper one is $50, $50 for the entire year. You can go on there, and they got this cool function, the Score Center, where you could, I don't think it's gonna, yeah, you can search scores on here. It's awesome. Like, so what they're doing is like a 5 is a perfect score, and then as you get lower, you know, 1 is really bad, 0 is terrible, all that kind of stuff. You got Pfizer, you click on Pfizer right now, and they have these 6 categories. They got life, environment, education, civil safe society. That's kind of based on Second Amendment stuff. Then you got the real Second Amendment category, and then, you know, basic freedoms, religious freedoms. The problem with Second Vote is this score is kind of arbitrary to the person looking at it, because if you want to get access to their research, you need to buy their top tier subscription, or their second tier subscription, which is $1,000 a year. So they're kind of like the BRI Institute, the first organization we talked about. But all three organizations, the BRI Institute, Inspire Insights, and Second Vote, are awesome. They're ways to kind of double C3, they're organizations that C3 uses to double check our own stuff. But I just wanted to share those three organizations with anyone out there who wanted to really vet their own personal portfolios, or kind of vet where they're spending or investing money, because all three of those organizations can provide a wealth of knowledge and just amazing databases to help you out through those endeavors. Now, so we talked about how we pull companies and assets and investments that we're going to put onto our site. And that's just managing through hundreds of different analysts and influencers and stock pickers. And then we take the majority consensus from those, and then we start doing our own due diligence research on the morals behind those organizations. And then once we have our own research compiled, then we go to these three different organizations, the BRI Institute, Inspire Insight, and Second Vote. And then we start double checking of what, if they came up with anything that we didn't come up with, or we came up with something that they didn't come up with, and talks with people from all three of these organizations, so we can kind of help each other out in the research process. And that is pretty much the gist of how C3 decides on what companies we're going to rate, and then how we come to those ratings. And all this with a big caveat, right? C3 is a subscription site, but we are not, you know, the traditional stock picker or financial planner or investment recommender. There's a lot of tricky words out there that we got to be careful with SEC, because we're essentially a blog that is producing information about the morality behind certain investments, right? That's what we're doing. We're producing information, quality information about the morality behind certain investments. Now, you can rest assured that the investments we are putting on our site and forming opinions about are investments that the majority of analysts have agreed have financial potential. But again, it's not really what you're paying for when you join C3. You're paying for that insight into the morality behind specific assets. With all that said, please go check out ChristCenterCapital.com. It's only $7 a month. I believe there will be a promo code in the description here to get your first month free. And there's no commitment. You know, you can sign up for 1 month and before you even pay, or I think there's a 30-day thing, so maybe you do pay 1 month. But it's only $7 a month. And at least 50% of that goes to those charities I talked about at the beginning of the video. And we change those charities every single month. We have amazing charities lined up, you know, religious universities, pro-life organizations, clean water initiatives, and a bunch of other different ministries that we've partnered with, and that we really want to support. We really want to show our support, and your $7 a month coupled with a bunch of other people's $7 a month can make life-changing donation amounts. You add up to life-changing donation amounts that we can give to these organizations. And also, the more subscribers we get, the more of the market that we get to cover.